Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bedpost Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Erin Pym. Here at the podcast, I like to invite guests and performers from my Bedpost stage show that I run here in Toronto and beyond into the studio to indulge me in a more in-depth conversation about sex and sexuality. And this week, what? Raise the roof. I have a very intimate guest. Ooh,
yes.
Intimacy expert, Alisha Fisher.
Hi, thank you so much, Erin. I've been looking forward to this ever since the phone smashing on the Instagram story. And I responded with a very kind of trolling response of, you know, when you see something totally smash the pieces and you're like, did you try turning it on and off again? And then a beautiful relationship has bloomed from that.
My phone has been smashed, as many people's phones have been smashed.
We all go there.
And it's funny, the first time, it's hilarious how it first got smashed is I was at the time, it's been like this for like 3 years.
Oh no.
The front of my phone. I was in a dynamic, in a strictly online dynamic with a dominant person.
Yeah.
And,
no.
Yeah. And no. It wasn't like he wasn't like smash your phone. He wasn't or anything like that. But like while I was like in conversation with him, I just it flew out of my hand like a wet bar of soap and like just face down on the concrete sidewalk.
Not in the shower though. You don't want to drop the soap.
On the sidewalk. Full then it smashed my camera. Like I took a picture of myself right after. I'm like, oh my God, you'll never guess what just happened. I took a picture of myself. At that point I wasn't even like showing pictures of my face. It's very demure. It was very like baby steps to a dynamic. And I'm like, this is the only picture you will ever get of my face. And I took a picture of myself and it's just like fucked up camera.
Oh no.
And then when you contacted me,
yes.
Now something with the actual like LCD was fucked.
Yeah.
So it was like lines now, not just the screen was smashed. It was like digital things happening. And it was while I was trying to negotiate a scene with somebody.
Yes. Oh my God. And you just try to hold on to it and you're like, oh no.
It's really important that I negotiate this scene. But I got a new phone. It's all good.
Just ran to the library, made it happen. Hey, just don't look. You lean the screen away.
Exactly. Hey. Work.
Yeah.
Schoolwork.
Fuck my pussy. Just research. Yeah, research.
Yeah, it's in my field. That's
Perfect.
not a lie.
Yeah.
But enough about my fucked up phone. Alisha.
Hi.
What is an intimacy expert?
Yeah. So I work with individuals and people in relationships to help enhance their intimate lifestyles, and that can be really a whole plethora of things, whether it be like the actual physical contact of sex itself, or just the foreplay, or even just assisting with the relationship, or even looking at within themselves and what they need to kind of like love themselves. I have a lot of people that have those unique fetishes and kinks, and there's two sets. There's one that's like by themselves and they don't know kind of how to find somebody who's interested in that, or there's people in the long-term monogamous vanilla relationships and they're like, I want her to step on my testicles with her high heels. How do I negotiate that? And I'm like, okay, so here's some tips, tricks, and techniques to help enhance that with communication and a little bit of compromise to help kind of fulfill that connection. So
yeah, because a monogamous vanilla relationship, there might have to be some compromise when one person wants kinky play.
Yes.
And for a long time, nobody's done anything kinky at all.
Yep. Yeah, and you kind of have to go in slow, but also just work the conversation in a little bit and like, what's your fantasy about this? And something I get people to do is like write down what their ultimate fantasies are. And then if they're in a relationship with just one other person, get down to write down what they think their partner's fantasy is. And then they kind of come in the middle and like, oh, what's something that we can do to kind of incorporate them both in? And what, you thought that about me? And like, whoa, I didn't think that about you. You have that kind of side. And it just starts that conversation, gets the wheels turning and gets people thinking about connection beyond penetration in some sense. Yeah. And because you can really...
What's behind the penetration?
Yeah, exactly. And like, what are your hands doing during that? Are they just like holding the hips, or are they like behind the neck and massaging the hair? Are they tracing the lips? Little things like that can just give you a little goosebump. Yeah.
Oh my. Yeah, all super important stuff because I mean, I talk about sex on a regular basis, but I still am not the greatest communicator when it comes to like me and a partner.
Exactly.
It's hard.
It
It's
is.
just hard to talk about sex.
Especially when you want something one way and then your partner wants something another way, and you're like, who's going to give, who's going to pull, who's going to take and receive.
And you want to do the nice thing for your partner. You want to do, what they want to do. You want to give them a great experience too. And it's like, there's a lot there.
Yes.
A lot there that
exactly.
makes it hard for people. Right? Yeah. What are like some super common problems that people come to?
One of the most common ones that I'm seeing is people in those long-term relationships wanting to spice things up, or they think they've done everything and like, what else can I do? You know, like I've done this, we've done that. And it's like, okay, what else? Or it's like, well, we have sex and then it's like the sex is great, but like, I love my partner, but I'm thinking about this and thinking about that, thinking about other people, and how do we incorporate that in? So just spicing up the long-term relationship and kind of rekindling that like spark.
Yeah.
So that would be one of the most common ones that I'm kind of getting. So
yeah, I would imagine that is super common. Yeah.
And then I would say the second one is people in monogamous relationships wanting to open it up. Whether it's poly or whether it's just open, I have a lot of people ask me kind of how to negotiate that conversation. Some of them are like looking for a threesome or looking for the unicorn. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So so that's
often how it starts though.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah, exactly.
That is definitely how me and my future husband started. We're like,
beautiful.
okay, let's maybe start with a third. I feel like is that a common stepping stone?
Yeah, like wanting to, well, it's kind of the teenage fantasy, I think. You hear about it, it's like, oh yeah, he's had a threesome. Oh, like your status all of a sudden, blows up in the small, like I come from a small town, so maybe that's the misconception I have about it. But it's just like incorporating someone in, and there's always in heterosexual relationships, the guy wanting the two girls, or and maybe the girl wants another guy, and in those heterosexual relationships, and I don't know, it all comes down to like just wanting to have fun and like dropping
to do something new,
dropping those gender roles and just experiencing pleasure. And that's what is kind of scary for on average men to do. Like, I don't want to touch another guy. Well, heaven forbid, like I don't want to seem gay, like and I'm like, why? Like, what is? And I have gentlemen too coming and talking to me like, yo, like I did something with another guy, like am I gonna be okay? And I'm like, did you have fun? Did you enjoy yourself? Then you're gonna be fine. Like you can identify yourself however you want, but it's just pleasure when it comes down
I feel
to
like
it.
Men have a much more rigid idea of sexuality than females tend to. Would that be accurate?
Definitely on average, I would say. Yeah. So
where females are more kind of encouraged and even expected to play. With other women. And whatnot, and maybe in group situations.
It's what you do at sleepovers and in the washroom.
At college. Everyone has a lesbian experience at college. But like, God forbid if a man had a homoerotic, fantasy or experience.
And they'll say, oh, I had a threesome. Oh, yeah, 2 chicks. Well, there was no guy there, but like we didn't touch, like we did the Eiffel Tower where like you join hands at the top. But
where you just high five over her.
Tag team.
But that's it.
Yeah. And I think it's so sad
it's
that
very limiting.
People, put themselves into this box and to experience pleasure and happiness, and they are like, oh, I don't know. And
because that's the thing with trying new things as well. It's like, I don't know. I might be assuming on behalf of the male, the entire male part of the population. But maybe, it's hard for them to try new things because they just want to appear super confident and super able, in everything they do. They want to have that power position where they're secure, they're providing security. It may be difficult for them to take that leap and look silly potentially like that. Like I heard somewhere a long time ago that like, one of men's, just like inherently within men's culture, like their worst fear is to be laughed at.
Interesting.
Their worst fear, like men, en masse, their worst fear is to be laughed at.
Yeah.
We're like and I also conversely heard this on the feel like this was on Oprah somewhere, so take it with a grain of salt. But it was like, women are afraid that men are going to kill them.
Oh.
And
Wow.
men are afraid that women are going to laugh at them. It's like, wow, those are very different.
Yes, I'd say so.
Like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yes, and with I studied victimology, and just hearing the horror stories of the domestic violence in heterosexual relationships, and how hard it is for, we'll say, a woman as a victim, a man as a perpetrator, because in most cases, unfortunately, that's what it is. The women wanting to reach out for help, but not really knowing how, and not knowing how to protect herself, or if they have children, that just puts a whole other dynamic into this. So it's very scary. It's very scary to see like how much help is needed and how underreported it is too.
Yeah, I have a good friend who's a policewoman, and she's kicking ass, but she's like, most of the shit I deal with is domestics, and it's really hard.
Yeah.
And just to see how the whole, not that I'm super educated to speak on this, you know, I'd love to have her on the podcast at some point actually, but it's just how the system just is, it's not, it's broken, and it's not helping every woman that's getting abused, and it just makes it harder and harder for them to, you know, get justice or, you know,
and even for when men are victimized, I think in Durham region, there's only 2 shelters that men with children can go to. And if you have different circumstances that come into it, you know, you get kicked out of one, and for whatever reason happening in your life, and then you get kicked out of another one, then, you know, where are you going to go?
That's it. There's
So
2.
it's 2. Yeah, it's very limiting all around.
I feel like this